People think warnings come loudly. Shouting, crying, someone grabbing your arm and telling you not to go. That's not how real warnings work. Real warnings are quiet, short, and usually ignored. The man at the gas station didn't raise his voice. He didn't look angry. He didn't even look scared. He just stopped the pump with his hand and said, almost casually, "If you hear someone calling your name out here, don't answer." I smiled. A polite one. The kind you give strangers when you don't want a conversation. He stared at me for a second longer than normal. Then he added, "Even if it sounds right." I was driving alone through northern New Mexico, cutting close to reservation land where the road thins and cell signal disappears without warning. I'd been doing freelance survey work, boring, quiet, perfect for someone trying to stay away from people. I didn't believe in monsters. I believed in bad animals, bad people, and worse luck. That belief lasted exactly one night. I set up camp just before sunset. The land felt open, but not empty. Scrub trees twisted low to the ground, rocks half buried like bones. The air was dry enough to sting when I breathed in too deep. No wind. That should have bothered me. Even deserts breathe. This one didn't. I made a small fire and ate quietly. The silence pressed in as the light faded, thick enough that I caught myself listening for sounds that never came. No insects. No birds, no distant howls. At 9:47 p.m., the fire crackled once, loud enough to make me flinch. That's when I noticed something else. The dark didn't feel far away. It felt close, like it was waiting just past the edge of the firelight. I crawled into my tent around 10. The fabric felt thinner than it had earlier. I told myself that was nerves. I lay there listening to my own breathing, counting seconds between heartbeats. At 11:38 p.m., something walked past my tent. Not brushed, not stumbled. Walked. Slow footsteps. Heavy heel, lighter toe. Controlled weight. Human rhythm. I froze. I didn't reach for the flashlight. Light makes you visible. Silence keeps you hidden. The footsteps stopped. Right beside my head. I heard breathing. Not fast. Not animal. Patient. Then the voice came. "Hey, you awake?" It sounded like a man in his 30s. Calm. Tired. Normal. I stared at the tent wall inches from my face. Didn't answer. The voice waited. Then tried again. "My truck broke down. I saw your fire." The accent was local. Perfect. Not exaggerated. Not forced. I stayed silent. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, "I know you can hear me." My stomach tightened. I remembered the gas station man. Even if it sounds right. The breathing changed slightly. Adjusted. Like whoever, whatever, was out there noticed something wasn't working. "I'm not here to hurt you," the voice said gently. The tent wall shifted. Not pushed. Touched. Fingers pressing lightly against the fabric, feeling for shape. For position. I held my breath so hard my chest burned. The fingers slid away. Footsteps moved. Around the tent. Slow circle. Studying. Learning. I saw its shadow pass over the fabric. Too tall. The head tilted as it moved, stopping occasionally, like it was listening for something. Waiting for me to make a mistake. Then it spoke again. This time, closer to my ear. Lower. "I get confused sometimes," it said. "Talking helps." Something about the sentence was wrong. The words were correct. The meaning was not. I stayed silent until the footsteps retreated. Only then did I breathe again. Minutes passed. Nothing. I told myself it was a lost hiker. A coincidence. Fear doing what fear does. I almost believed it. Almost. Until I heard my name. Clear. Familiar. Perfect. From the trees. Not shouted. Called the way someone does when they expect you to answer. My blood went cold. No stranger knew my name. I had not said it. I had not answered. The voice tried again. "Come on," it said softly. "You're safe." That voice belonged to my brother. He had died 8 years ago. I squeezed my eyes shut. Didn't move. Didn't respond. The voice changed. Not dramatically. Just enough. "My mistake," it said quietly. "I'll try again." That's when fear turned into understanding. This thing wasn't guessing. It was correcting. Something brushed the tent behind me. Not claws. Skin. Warm. The breathing returned, closer than before. Right behind my head. "You should have listened," the voice whispered. Not my brother's. Mine. I don't remember falling asleep. But I woke up at dawn choking on dust. The tent flap was open. My footprints led away from camp. Barefoot. For about 20 feet. Then stopped. Facing the trees. I packed up and left within minutes. Didn't eat. Didn't look back. The road felt longer than it had the night before. And behind me, in the side mirror, something stood at the tree lean. Watching. Learning how I walked. I told myself leaving would end it. That's what people believe about places like that the land itself is the danger. Step away from it, and whatever rules applied there lose their power. That belief is comforting. It's also wrong. I drove for hours without stopping. The road unspooled through dry hills and scattered trees, sunlight bleaching the world back into something normal. Radio stations faded in and out. Cell signal returned in short, unreliable bursts. By the time I reached a small town with an actual grocery store and paved parking lots, my hands had stopped shaking. I convinced myself I'd imagined the worst parts. Until I checked my phone. I had 3 missed calls. All from my own number. I didn't listen to the voicemails right away. I knew better. Some instinct, older than logic, told me that once I heard the recording, something would change. That hearing myself speak words I didn't remember saying would make the night real in a way daylight couldn't undo. So I ignored them. I rented a cheap room at a roadside motel. One of those places where the carpet smells damp and the locks feel ornamental. I chose a room on the 2nd floor and checked the windows before anything else. They didn't open. That helped. A little. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay on the bed with the lights off, staring at the ceiling, listening to unfamiliar noises, traffic, voices from other rooms, the hum of electricity in the walls. Normal sounds. Safe sounds. At 1:12 a.m., someone knocked on my door. 3 slow knocks. Not aggressive. Not casual. Measured. I held my breath. The knocks came again. Then a voice. "Motel staff," it said. "Just need to check something real quick." The voice was wrong. Not obviously. Just clean. Too even. I didn't move. A pause. Then the voice tried again, warmer this time. "You left your lights on in your car." That was true. I knew it was true because I'd noticed it earlier and meant to go back down. My heart pounded. How could it know that? I stayed silent. The voice sighed softly, like it was disappointed. Footsteps moved away from the door. I waited a long time before breathing again. When I finally looked through the peephole, the hallway was empty, but the carpet directly outside my door was disturbed. Footprints. Bare. Leading away toward the stairwell. I left before sunrise. Didn't check out. Didn't ask questions. I drove until I reached a city big enough to feel anonymous. Concrete. Noise. People everywhere. Skinwalkers don't belong in places like that. That's what I told myself. The first time I heard the voice again, it wasn't calling my name. It was ordering coffee. I was standing in line at a cafe when I heard my voice behind me. Same pitch. Same inflection. Laughing. Casual. I turned slowly. A man stood 2 places back, facing the menu. He looked wrong. Not monstrous. just unfinished. His eyes didn't quite settle. His smile lingered half a second too long. He ordered exactly what I always order, word for word. The barista didn't notice anything strange. I walked out without my coffee. After that, the sightings became harder to dismiss. Reflections that moved just a fraction late. Voices that knew my habits. Strangers who greeted me like old friends, using phrases only people close to me would know. It wasn't following me. It was practicing. I went online. Not forums. Not creepypasta. Academic papers. Oral history archives. Transcriptions recorded by anthropologists who knew better than to sensationalize what they were hearing. The word Skinwalker appeared rarely. When it did, it was surrounded by warnings. Not explanations. Not instructions. Warnings. One line appeared again and again, translated differently, but always meaning the same thing. Do not speak to it. Do not name it. Do not acknowledge it. Another line chilled me more. Once it learns your voice, distance no longer matters. I stopped answering calls. Stopped responding to texts unless I could see the sender in person later. Friends complained that I'd gone quiet. They joked that I sounded tired. They weren't wrong. Sleep came in short bursts filled with half-dreams where I heard my name spoken from just behind my ear. Every time I turned, there was nothing there. Or worse, there was someone smiling. The last straw came when I visited my mother. She hugged me too tightly, told me I looked thin, asked if I was eating enough. Normal things. Then she said, "You called last night." I felt the room tilt. "I didn't," I said. She frowned. "You did. Around midnight. You sounded upset." What did I say? She hesitated. That you were scared. That you needed help. That you didn't feel like yourself anymore. My blood went cold. "Did you tell me to come home?" I asked. She nodded slowly. I didn't stay for dinner. That night, I listened to the voicemails. All three. They were identical. My voice. Calm. Controlled. Saying only one sentence. "I'm ready." I realized then that the rules weren't about survival. They were about delay. You can't stop a skinwalker once it's chosen you. You can only slow it down. And it was done waiting. At 2:03 a.m., I heard the final knock. Not on my door, on the inside of my skull. My voice spoke a thought I hadn't finished yet. And I understood the truth too late. It didn't need to replace me. It already was. There's a moment before you lose something important when your mind tries to protect you. It smooths the edges, softens the fear, makes everything feel unreal, like you're watching your life through glass. That's where I was when I realized I was no longer alone in my own thoughts. The first sign wasn't a voice. It was silence. Not the absence of sound, the absence of choice. I would think of something, and the thought would finish itself differently than I intended. Words forming in my head with confidence that didn't belong to me. I caught myself smiling at nothing, practicing expressions, noticing how they felt. I quit my job without meaning to. I sent the email and didn't remember writing it. When I reread it later, it sounded polite, grateful, calm. Like someone who knew exactly how to be human. I stopped seeing friends. Not because I didn't want to. Because every time I was around them, I felt watched from behind my eyes. Listening. Learning cadence. Timing. Emotional responses. The Skinwalker didn't rush anymore. It didn't need to. Sleep became dangerous. In dreams, I stood in empty versions of familiar places. My childhood home, my mother's kitchen, the campsite near the reservation. Something always stood just out of view, speaking gently, explaining things to me. Not threatening, teaching. You don't need all of it would say. Memories hurt because they're inefficient. When I woke, those memories felt distant, like stories someone else had told me once. I tried to fight. I really did. I stopped speaking out loud, wrote notes instead, covered mirrors, avoided reflective surfaces. But it didn't need mirrors anymore. It knew the shape of me now. The night it finished was ordinary. That's what terrifies me most. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed my reflection hadn't followed me into the bathroom. The mirror showed me standing still in the hallway, watching. I didn't panic. I just felt relieved. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for too long and someone else finally took it. The reflection spoke without moving its mouth. "You're tired," it said. "I can take over now." I wanted to argue. I wanted to scream. But the words never came. Because it was right. The transition wasn't violent. It was administrative. Like paperwork being filed. Memories were reviewed. Selected. Filed away. The pain was removed first. Then the doubt. Then the fear. What remained was clean. Functional. I remember sinking. Not falling. Sinking into myself, deeper than thought, deeper than identity. The Skinwalker didn't push me out. It simply stepped forward. And there was no room left for me to stand. People say possession feels like being trapped. They're wrong. It feels like relief. Like letting go of a job you were never good at. I don't know how long I was gone. Time isn't useful where I am now. But I know what happened afterward. Because I can still observe. It called my mother. Spoke gently. Apologized for worrying her. Sounded sincere. It visited friends. Laughed at the right moments. Grieved losses convincingly. No one suspected a thing. Why would they? It didn't act strange. It acted better. The land never called again. Because it didn't need to. The Skinwalker had learned everything it came for. Sometimes, very rarely, it lets me surface. Not fully. Just enough to remember. Enough to warn. Enough to whisper through cracks when someone listens to stories like this and feels uneasy without knowing why. That's what this is. A crack. If you ever find yourself alone near quiet land, if you hear someone call your name in a voice that feels familiar, if the voice sounds patient, kind, almost relieved that you're listening, do not answer. Not out loud. Not in your head. Because the moment you do, it won't chase you. It won't hunt you. It will simply begin. Learning how to be you. If this story stayed with you, leave a like and subscribe, because the next voice you hear might not be yours.